We are in Goa today for the launch of the 650 Twins by Royal Enfield. Someone very interesting is riding this other bike. I think most of you will know him. He's a very busy man. He's a very famous man. He's a very... Okay, this is Mr. Murtaza Junaid. For the few of you who don't already know him, he has an incredibly successful YouTube channel called Art of Motorcycles. Okay, I think I'm gonna show these guys what these bikes sound like. Here we go. Does it make you smile? And the Interceptor, basically. So the first thing I want to tell you guys about these bikes is in half an hour of riding, no vibrations.
At least Royal Enfield has done it. It has killed its own, what do you say, landmark or something of vibrator.
Interestingly, someone who was talking to us about the development of these bikes today was telling us that you know, people say that Royal Enfield can't make bikes that don't vibrate. Well, we have made a bike that doesn't vibrate, and
at the speed of 100 miles, that's 160 km/h.
Okay, we haven't yet done those speeds, but whatever we've done,
whatever we have
no
done,
vibrations. Huge win as a long-term Royal Enfield owners, riders. We are thrilled about the fact that there are no vibrations. It's been quite a long wait for these 650 Twins from Royal Enfield to see them on the road. I saw them last year at Ridermania in the flesh. When I saw these Twins, obviously I'm attracted by the cafe racer style, but given that I am a tourer and I like touring on motorcycles, I've had my eye on the Interceptor, which is in my hands now. If you want tech specs about this bike, there are enough and more people doing that online. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who likes riding bikes long distances, and I've been riding a fair number of Royal Enfields. So the aim over here is to just ride this bike and give you guys some first impressions on how I see it as potentially being used as a bike to go far on. Let's do this. One of the things I really love about this bike is that you have power whenever you want it. Alright, so I've spent about 2 hours on the Interceptor, and I have to say it is incredibly comfortable. When I first sat on the bike, I noticed that it was kind of forward set. The position, the foot pegs are slightly rear set. You lean forward to ride. I thought it might be uncomfortable, but I've been on the bike for almost 2 hours straight, and no problem whatsoever. Very comfortable, very relaxed. Now, while this isn't specifically a touring motorcycle as far as Ari is concerned, they told us yesterday that they are making some touring accessories. So Royal Enfield itself is going to be making some accessories for these bikes. Fortunately, we have an Interceptor here with us that has some of these things. One is this fly screen. They're making these engine guards. Now, from a touring perspective, we were told yesterday that there's also going to be a slightly taller handlebar. It's not yet out, it's not on this bike. This is the stock handlebar of the bike, but there is going to be a taller version which gives you a slightly more upright position. Now, this seat is also different. If you notice, it has this little badging, the RE touring badging. So they intend to also sell a slightly different seat, which they say will be more comfortable for long distance touring. The fit and finishing on this bike is far better than anything I've ever seen from RE before. Having spent 2 hours on the bike, the brakes actually work. You're doing 100 plus and you get on the brakes, ABS, they work. Now, obviously, mounting luggage onto your bike is a key aspect of being able to actually take it long distances. Since I happen to be carrying the claw with me on this trip, I just mounted it onto the bike to see how a luggage option like this would work. And while it's generally fine from the front to secure it down on the sides, which is common across most motorcycles, the width seems fine. But the real issue, as I was saying, is with securing things at the rear. You don't really have much space on the stock motorcycle to tie things up, unlike on the other REs. Now, the 3 hours that I've spent on this bike, I've not been thinking of this as a time to try and review this bike. I've more wanted to experience it as a tourer, as someone who likes to ride long distances on a bike. And I know a lot of you have been thinking about this bike as something that you could potentially tour on. Now, this is definitely not going to be the bike that substitutes a Himalayan. So some of you have been asking me about whether you should go for the Himalayan or this. If you want to ride adventure routes, this is not the bike for that. The company doesn't say it's the bike for that, and look at it, it's a roadster bike. It's not meant for that. The Himalayan is purpose built for those kind of things. This is not going to replace that. But for highway cruising, for some light off-roading, I think that potentially this could work. It's definitely great fun on a highway, on open roads, where you can actually open up the throttle and enjoy the power of a motorcycle. It's far exceeded my expectations in terms of performance, in terms of comfort, in terms of finish quality. So that's it. These have been my first impressions of this bike. I focused on the Interceptor 650 because that's what I'm more interested in. And having ridden the GT briefly, I totally prefer this bike. The GT is lovely and it's exciting to ride, but this is so much more comfortable, it's more relaxed, it's more my style. Obviously, from a touring perspective, there are other things that matter, which can only be found when you use something like this over a period of time. Durability of every part of it, the cost of maintenance, cost of spares, and frequency of maintenance. these are things that I can't speak of right now, and I don't think anybody's going to be able to speak about them until someone's had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with this bike. Overall though, this has been a really fun experience. It's been a pleasure to be introduced to this bike, the Interceptor 650. Okay, I want to feel the power of this engine one last time before I return this bike. Here we go.